Well, I was going to do a review of a convention that I just recently went to. However, after what happened, I feel like it's a different kind of video, so that review has been changed to something completely opposite of a review. Also, I'm not going to do my usual intro, and I'm not going to do anything fancy or funny. This is a very serious conversation here. One more thing, do not attack, harass, or otherwise go after the people mentioned in this video because I do not want anything of that sort compiling the issue that was at hand. Ready? Good. Here we go. On May 19th, 2024, at KIMOCHICON that was held at the Embassy Suites in Frisco, Texas, I was a volunteer for the General Assembly. Well, basically, that means it's door watching, floor running, stuff like that. My typical safety stuff without being quote unquote safety. And I'll get to that problem in a moment. Around the time of 11:30, I can't exactly remember the exact time. I wasn't writing that down, to be fair. There was a large amount of screaming from an individual coming from around the area of registration. Now, how the registration was set up, there were basically two entrances from the outside of the convention center to inside of it. The registration was sandwiched in between two glass doors. So there's one on the side of it going in and one from like the corner going around on the right, and one right next to it on the side on the left. There was also an entrance from the hotel room down a hallway, but I'll get into that point in a moment. And for a while, we didn't exactly know what the screaming was about. It could have been about anything. Somebody could have been upset about, I don't know, realistically. But for a while, it was going on, and after a while, the screaming ended. And now, where I was during this time was away from the situation, but close enough to know what was going on. I was at the dealer's room door watching people go in and out, the usual, make sure nobody without a badge goes in. You know how that goes. You've seen these people. They literally check everybody. Not a single person gets in there without a badge. To be fair, that was one of the good things that happened. But after a while, we do go around to make sure everyone's okay. Hey, is everyone fine? So I go talk specifically to the security guy. Robert, I believe his name was. It started with an R, I can't remember exactly. And he told me that, when uncertain terms, and I got, get to this train of thought in a moment, that somebody had brought in a pistol under the concealed carry law in the state of Texas. And to be fair, that is a legitimate law in the state of Texas, that somebody could go into the hotel area with an actual concealed carry weapon without any punishment. It was a live firearm, in other words. This is the first time in 14 years, whether I've gone as an attendee, volunteer, somebody working for a different group, like a exhibitor or a vendor, that I've ever heard anyone allowed to have a weapon at a convention. Let me make it very clear. This wasn't okay, sure, we missed it. It was, somebody was able to have it. I don't know if there was even repercussions. Police were called. As far as I know, no arrests were made. Nobody was told no, they couldn't do it. And so now I'm a little worried about this. this because obviously I've never had this happen, and I went off to ask the head of the actual security group, Josh, not giving last names again, don't want to do that, and ask him, hey, what was the exact policy in place? You know, they went on about, hey, look, this guy had a concealed carry, it's the law here, blah, blah, blah. But they never gave me an exact detail of what was the policy. Like, could they have even brought it in or not? And so, let's get this out of the way. No shots were fired. To my knowledge, nobody actually got hurt. So, that was the good news. Like, nobody was harmed in this. I didn't see any real conflict, like physical violence, come out of this. So it could have been a lot worse. But that isn't the point. The point is somebody was allowed to bring a firearm at a convention, and in the way even I am, conventions take this very seriously. We have people from across the country, around the world, coming to these events who are famous people. It wasn't just, oh, by the way, you know, I've met up with Chuck Norris personally, for crying out loud. I know these people are very popular names in the world. No questions about it. So, in order for this to have gone by, a lot of things had to fail. Let's be honest. You know, first off, the policy wasn't really spelled out. I'm not even sure I saw a detailed policy on the convention website. You know, that alone is kind of like, yeah, generally we know what to look for, but there wasn't anything really put out as far as I can tell. Secondly, there had to be nobody watching the entrances. There were 3 possible entrances, like I said, 2 on the side of registration, and then we get to the one that was in from the hotel itself, where the quote-unquote main entrance is. That was pretty far away from registration. I'd say it was about, can't give a great estimation, but it had to be at least 30 yards, which is 90 or 100 feet roughly. I'm not exactly sure on that number, but it wasn't. It was far enough from registration that the registration people couldn't be like eyes on that part. So somebody from, I think it was somebody from the general group, not safety or the security group, was stationed there looking at the people coming in. And again, as far as I know, there are 2 other entrances, so it could have come from anywhere. So I can't really fault that person or those people in that one spot for this. Excuse me, I'm really like, yeah. But generally speaking, that should never happen. Nobody should ever bring in any kind of firearm that got that far into the convention. So, what, who, why? Well, the what, I've already told you. The why, according to them, was the law was allowing this. And, really, after doing all the information back checks and all that, I found out that the security group was hired from an outside contractor. They were actually hired by the convention. So, I don't know if this Josh person was a member of the security firm, but everyone seemed like, yeah, these people were connected. So, the hiring process has to come up from above that. So, I don't know who does the books, but there's only one person higher than the quote-unquote head of security that Josh was, and that was Bishojo Mom herself. There's nobody higher than your department head other than the con chairs. So, it breaks down by this. And I don't like saying this, but this is how it ends up happening. Somebody from who knows where, could have been a attendee, could have been, I don't know who exactly, name doesn't ring a bell, doesn't, we don't know who it was particularly, came from outside the convention, got pretty far into the convention, up to registration, where a private security firm hired by the convention did not try to stop them or make sure that they didn't have any weaponry with them. So, I mean, this is pretty scary. No doubt about it. I'm not sure who or what thought this was a good idea to just go, well, it's the law, whatever. But even then, every convention I've ever been to, and I've been through conventions for 14 years. In fact, as a volunteer, 20 years this October as just a con goer. You know, that's probably what I'm going to be doing at Onicon, but I digress. I have never heard of anyone at all, for all my history, being able to have a weapon such as a pistol, it doesn't matter what it was a firearm, get that far into a convention. Now, I've had one instance where a person brought in what looked like a very realistic gun, and I had to look through this top to bottom, left and right, to make sure that this person de-weaponized everything. There was no magazine. In fact, they disabled the entire hammer mechanism. They pulled away. They destroyed the trigger. They just kind of blew it apart or took it down. They took out any kind of like actual firing mechanism. So I made sure, hey, look, this weapon's completely safe. They didn't bring it to actually hurt somebody. And I was like it on that for like 10 minutes. That was the only time that I've seen a realistic weapon that was de-weaponized and turned into what would be a prop. It was one time ever, and I was like, okay, got it. No, this can't hurt anybody. So I know when there was an actual firearm that can hurt somebody. Like, people brought in a pellet gun, and it went one convention, and they told them, no, you can't have even that. So people take this seriously. The point is, if it looks realistic from 10 feet away, probably a bad idea to bring in anyway. So, nuts and bolts to it, you know, KimochiCon royally fucked up, alright? I can't hold back anymore. This is so stupid. Why would you allow this kind of dumbassery? I'm done. So, that aside, I will no longer be working with KimochiCon. I will not attend any further events KimochiCon puts out. And needless to say, I think there's only really two direct people to blame. The head of security, Josh, obviously, and the con chair herself, Bishojo Mom, for allowing this to happen. And yeah. So, regardless of what other people think of me or what my personal ideas are, I'm throwing that all out the window. I'm not dealing with that right now. The safety of your attendees is paramount. Failure to take care of that situation should result in a lot of questions being asked at least, and direct removal of certain staff members at most, you know. I don't care if Ichojo Mom puts on another convention, I just won't be a part of it. Later.